Hi, welcome to Grade 2 Math with Mrs. Farrington. That's me right there. And today we're going to be looking at fractions. And before we begin, you're going to need some materials for the activity. First, you're going to need blank paper. You're going to need a ruler. You can use pencil if you wish. um, Colored pencil, crayon, but you need something to color with, or markers if you have markers and your parents allow you to use markers. One, two, scissors, and glue. So those are basically what you're going to need. And oh, most importantly, something round. Now I'm using the lid from a pot. Anything round that you have around the home, and make sure you ask your parent first. Don't go and take your mommy's lid out of the cupboard and use it without a permission, especially if it's glass, because you don't want to break it. So now we begin. We're going to be talking about fractions. And I'm going to start with a story about two friends. And these friends are Lene and Kalika. They're very, very good friends. So Lene on Friday, she went to Miss Rule and she bought a coconut tart. Lene shared her tart with her friend Kalika because they're like best friends. Both girls were really happy and everything was cool. So on Sunday after church now, Kalika bought Todd as well. She went to Miss Rule and she bought Todd after church. And then she shared it too with her friend. Kalika took a piece and then she gave a piece to Lene. Now, Lene took one look at her piece and then she looked at Kalika's piece and she said, Kalika, you ain't fair, you know. You ain't fair, you big eye. So Kalika was like, what you talking about? I share my tart with you. I break it and I give you half. Kalika was like, no, 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 no. So Lene was like, no, you didn't give me half. You gave me a piece, but it wasn't half. She said, look good at your piece. Your piece is bigger than mine. So is Lene correct? Let's look. We have, this is Lene's tart, and this is how she separated. She took a piece and she gave Kalika a piece. This is Kalika's tart, and Kalika took a piece, and then she gave Lene a piece. So when we look here, Lene would have made sure that she and Kalika had the same size. But when we look at Kalika's, we can see that Kalika's piece is much larger than Lene's. Now in math, equal parts means to have the same weight, size, or quantity or other measurements. So it's the same. Remember when you did even numbers? Even numbers can share equally without a remainder. So it's the same size. Now, unequal parts in math is when we have parts that are not exactly the same weight, size, or measurement. There's always one that's bigger. Like in odd numbers, there's always one left over. 3 is an odd number because you get one, I get one, and then you get one, but there's no more for me to get, so one will get more. So it's unequal. Now, how does this, well, what does this have to do with fractions? Well, I'll tell you what it has to do with fractions. A fraction is a part of a whole. When we put these together, this is Lene's tart, that's the whole tart. This is Kalika's whole tart. A fraction is a part of a whole. Now, both of these are whole, so we can say this is a fraction and this is a fraction. But we wouldn't be correct because fractions have to be equal. All the parts must be equal. So Lene had she gave her a fraction. She gave her half because these are equal. They're the same size. Kalika, on the other hand, this is not a fraction. These are unequal parts. Kalika's part is clearly larger or bigger than Lene's part. And so No, Kalika was not fair in the way that she shared it. Now we can't say she's big-eyed. Maybe Kalika just can't cut. Maybe that's it, but we can't just say she big-eyed. But that's Lene's friend. You don't get in that because they're gonna be friends later. So now let's look at further at Lene's. We're gonna use her path, her thought. So Lene took a piece. So she gave one to her friend, and there were two pieces in all. So that's the fraction. She had one, she had two pieces in all, and she gave her friend a piece. So what fraction? She gave her friend Kalika one out of the two pieces that she had. All right, so one and two. But when we're talking about fractions, we just don't say one and two. These numbers have special names. So I'm going to sing you a little song. I'm not a music teacher, but I'm going to sing you a little song so that you can remember what we call these numbers. And it goes like this. Each number in a fraction has a name. Each number in a fraction has a name. On the top, the numerator. On the bottom, the denominator. Each number in a fraction has a name. So, like the song said, each of the numbers have a name. So on the top here, we have if you were listening or you were singing along, because I know you catch on really fast, the number at the top is the numerator, and then the number at the bottom, the denominator. So those are the special names. They're really big words, but you'll remember because numerator and denominator. But there's also another part. There's also another part. What about this? Miss Farrington, that's the line. That's the line. Yes, it's the line. But that line also has a special name. This line is called the fraction bar. It's called the fraction bar. So at the top, we have the numerator. At the bottom, the denominator. And then the fraction bar is the line that separates them. So your denominator tells you how many pieces there are in all. There were two pieces in all. And then your numerator will tell you about the pieces that are shaded or the piece that the problem speaks to. For instance, which fraction did Lene give to Kalika? She gave her one. So she gave her one out of the two pieces. So the fraction there is one out of two, or a word that we use a lot. I know you know this word. Another word. This word. Because they talked about it. Half. Half. One out of two is half. Now, another way to look at fractions is part of a group. So let me flip this over because I can't write upside down. So we have these blocks, these attribute blocks, and let's count them. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 blocks. 8 blocks in a row. Correct? So we already know how many blocks we have in all. So I can go ahead and write my bottom number. Oops, we don't say bottom number, we say denominator. So I write my denominator because there are 8 blocks in all. I'm going to draw my fraction bar to separate the denominator from What we call the top number? You got it, from the numerator. So how would I know what my numerator is? It can be anything, eh? No, it can't be anything. Here's what my question would be. What fraction of the blocks are brown? So the first thing I need to know is, of course, I will have to know my colors. I have three colors, three different colors here. So I have pink, I have brown, and I have green. So I know my colors. Yay! So I'm looking for the brown. That's what I am speaking to. So I look at these are brown blocks. So I have one, two, three. So three brown blocks out of eight blocks in all. So my fraction is 3/8. 3/8 of the blocks are brown. So let's make sure you got that. 3/8. Three of the blocks are brown, but there are eight blocks in all. It's very important to not miss this, because a lot of times, sometimes, children, here's what you will do. You will say 3 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, instead of including this. So our denominator is very important. Our denominator is how much there are in all, and then the numerator is the fraction of the objects that the question speaks to. Okay, now we got that. Now let's get back to our story. Not quite. What we're going to do now as an activity, we are going to do some art. Remember I told you that you would have needed something round? Well, here's my pot cover. I'm an adult, so I don't have to ask to use the pot cover. It's my pot cover. And I'm going to use, I like Crayola Twistables because I don't have to sharpen them. So I'm going to trace around, and I make sure that I hold my pot cover down. Whatever you have, make sure you hold it down so that your circle is as straight as possible. Ooh, it's nice, eh? And I'm going to draw a cookie. Now, I'm going to draw a cookie, and let's see if you could figure out what kind of cookie I'm going to be making. So you pretend like while I'm drawing it, it's like I'm mixing the ingredients, the flour, the sugar, the eggs, what else? The baking powder, the butter, of course, my special ingredient that for which flavor cookie. So use your context clues to make inferences about what kind of cookie it is that I am making. And these look delicious, don't they? This is gonna look so good. So we're mixing, mixing, mixing. So when you're drawing your cookie, it's like you're mixing all the ingredients. We've measured it and we're mixing it. I'm gonna put one more here. And I'm only using one crayon because my type of cookie, I don't need that many. So now that's why we had to press down when we were tracing to make sure that you had a good outline or border. You know, in art class, your art teacher tells you to do a border. Well, what the border does is it it's a guide to help you not to go outside of the line, because we want to make sure that when we are coloring, we are not coloring outside of the line. We want our picture to look neat. And also notice I'm not pressing as hard while I'm shading in my cookie as I did with, have you guessed what kind of cookie I'm making? Hmm? Do you think it's oatmeal raisin? Could these be raisins? It could be, but no, it's not oatmeal raisin. I don't like raisins. I do not like raisins. Did you know that raisins are dried grapes? Yeah, I don't like raisins. So these are not oatmeal raisin cookies. Well, this isn't an oatmeal raisin cookie. I think somebody may have guessed it. This is a chocolate chip cookie. You see my big chunks of chocolate chip? So when I was drawing them, I made sure that I drew my chocolate chips very dark because I knew that I would be coloring it over with the same brown crayon. So I made these dark and then I colored it light so it looks like a nice round cookie. Of course, you could use tan if you want, or if you're gonna make red velvet cookies, like the Cookie Cater has red velvet cookies, so you can get all creative with it. And remember I said we needed a ruler, so because I'm gonna be sharing this and I want it to be equal because it has to be fractions. Um, but I'm going to use a little trick. What I do is I fold it over and I look at my line. If all of my lines touching, I make a crease. That's a crease. So I'll have an invisible line. And then I fold it again and make a crease so that now when I open it, I don't have to guess where my line is going to be. And I take my crayon pencil and I draw my dividing line. So this is like the cookie is cooling. It's on the cooling rack because after you take the cookie out of the oven, it has to cool. If you don't let the cookie cool, it's just going to crumble and you can't share that. Nobody's going to really want that. So the next part is you're going to need your scissors. Make sure you're using child safety scissors. If you don't have scissors at home, what you can do is um, around your plate, for the persons who don't have, and because it's a plate, you could, you buy your mommy have that nice china. Yeah. And you could put decorations on it, around it, and stuff like that. You can do that if you don't have scissors. And you're going to do that while those of us who do have scissors, we're going to cut along the edge or the perimeter. Let's use a math word, the perimeter, because perimeter is around. So we're going to cut around the perimeter of this cookie. Making sure that we stay right on the line because we don't want our cookie to be misshapen. When you look, your cookie be shaping funny. It's supposed to be round, but then it's all jaggedy. Like some of the pieces fell off because you didn't let it cool and then you just picked it up off of the cookie sheet. So we've cut it around it. And now another math word. We're cutting it and we're dividing it. By cutting it, this is dividing. And when you get to grade 3, you're going to learn about division. We're dividing it. Or another math word, sharing it. So out of that whole big cookie, I have 4 pieces. I have 4 pieces, see? And they're pretty much, let's pretend like all are the same size because they have to be equal, okay? So what are we doing next? We're getting all artsy now. So what we're doing next, we are going to we're going to glue it down now. Glue it down. We're going to pretend like all of these equal parts because it has to be equal parts, but there are 4 parts in this whole. And you saw me slice up my cookie. So we know that it came from this one cookie. And then I get my glue. And when we use glue, we open our glue. And we're not going to put a whole bunch of glue on the backs of these pieces. So remember this, just a dot not a lot. So I'm going to use 3 dots at the perimeters, just a dot. And why do we use a dot? Well, we don't want to, first and foremost, we don't want to waste the glue. That's the first thing. And then we want our pieces to dry really quickly. We don't want it to have to stay out for a while before it dries. So I've just glued my pieces. Okay. Now, the last part that we're going to do is we're going to do some writing. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to write and we're going to use the same math word. I divided my cookie in, remember, 4 pieces, in 4, and shared it with, who am I going to share it with? Lene, Kalika, and Jaquay. And there ends my sentence. So I divided my cookie in 4 and shared it with Lene, Kalika, and Jaquay. So I shared it with 1, 2, 3 people, but I have 4 pieces. So this is Lene, Kalika, Jaquay. So who's this for? Ha! This piece is for me, so I make the 4th person. So I would have shared my cookie between 4 people. And if I wanted, I could write a fraction and ask which fraction of my cookie did I give away. So I'm going to start. I have 4 pieces in all. I should turn this around. I'm not going to trust that. So I have 4 pieces in all. I gave Lene, Kalika, and Jaquay. So that's 3 people. So out of my 4 pieces, I gave away 3. So that's 3/4 or 3/4. I hope you enjoyed this activity and you can do this and write your friends' names because we're not seeing our friends for a while because of Corona. We have to stay indoors, we have to stay safe, we have to social distance ourselves. So you can do this activity, write your friends' names, those we've not seen. And then when you get back to school, you can probably put them together and have a nice cookie book. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you, or we will talk next time. This has been Grade 2 Math with Mrs. Farrington. So, see you. Take care and stay safe.